we're starting off the new phase of the MCU with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and the MCU for the past couple of years have been up and down. There have been projects that I've enjoyed, others that I've enjoyed to a degree, but nothing really terrible so far. And Ant-Man and the Wasp really was going to be that one pinnacle where it was going to change the Ant-Man franchise, mostly because the first two Ant-Man films have been really small scale. This film, as a lot of people have described it, is an Avengers level film, and you definitely feel that, even with the MCU being up and down and with the critics being very divisive. So which side did I land on with this movie? Well, I landed on the one side that is very alright with this movie. I thought this movie was fine. They did some very interesting things that they didn't explore as much as I wanted to, but for the most part, I thought it was a fun time. The film tells the story of Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne, along with Hank and Janet, exploring the quantum realm where they interact with strange creatures and embark on an adventure that goes beyond the limits of what they thought was possible. And this is going to be a non-spoiler review. My spoiler review is going to be coming up on Sunday morning, so look forward to that. But this movie was fine for the most part. It does take a little while for it to get going, but once it does, it feels like it's all over the place, and it just doesn't have a very distinctive note when it comes to this film. Most of our favorite cast members are split throughout the entire film, and they really don't come together all too much. They don't have the interaction that we're used to seeing with them, and that is something that kind of took me out of the film just a little bit. And that has been the pattern for a lot of the MCU films, where the first film has you getting to know these characters and finding their little balance and their relationship, and then in the sequel they'll split them up and have their own little storylines going, and that kind of happens in this movie. Scott Lang is with his daughter Cassie, and Hope is with her parents somewhere else on the other end of the quantum realm, and it feels like you lose a little bit when you don't have them together, mostly because you really enjoy the interaction when they're together, but when they're not together all too much, you kind of feel the magic that they had within the first two films. And even though I enjoyed what they were going for the most part, this movie feels like it was a gigantic mess, and other times it felt like it was just kind of throwing things at the wall trying to make them stick, and it just didn't feel like it was all that natural. Catherine Lang, who replaced Emma Furman in Avengers Endgame, she's the new Cassie Lang, and I really enjoyed that they gave her a little bit more than I thought they were going to. I really enjoyed her performance, and the relationship between her and Paul Rudd actually worked, and it was one of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie. I thought that interaction was great. You see the fathering love from the first two films that he has for Cassie, and that does not go unnoticed in this movie because it just worked to its great degree. And she wasn't in it enough in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but Michelle Pfeiffer in this film actually had a lot more. I think she had a little bit more to do in this movie, mostly because she was trapped in the quantum realm, so she kind of knows her way around. And I really enjoyed that there were some things that they kept from us that actually worked to a degree. However, there were a lot of characters in this movie that did not work for me. You have these freedom fighters in the quantum realm, and I enjoyed what they were going for with those characters. However, you don't get to see a lot of them, and I kind of wish they explored them a little bit more because there were some interesting things that they were going for, but then they get pushed aside and you don't get to see them for a long while, and that was kind of disappointing because I really enjoyed what they were going for, but it just felt like they were dropping them at a dime, and it just didn't flow with what they were trying to do. You also have other people that have known Janet and really don't want her around for specific reasons, and that was a very interesting thing that again doesn't really get explored all too much. Now, when it comes to Jonathan Majors as Kang, I saw a lot of people praising him as Kang. For me personally, even though he was menacing when he needed to be, you really don't get a lot of Jonathan Majors in this movie, mostly because he feels like he's just in the backdrop and you don't get to see a lot of him. You get to see him in flashbacks, but other than that, he doesn't really show up till about the hour mark. And when he shows up, I really like how they used him. I just wish they used him a little bit more because I really like what they were going for. And I think this is the first time that I've seen Jonathan Majors in a big role. Even though he did pop up at the end of Loki season 1, really like his performance. I just wish they used him a little bit more. And when it comes to the final battle, it feels like there is just so much going on that you're trying to focus on so many things right there and then that it just feels all cobbled up, and it just feels like a gigantic CGI mess that we see in the MCU. However, some of the CGI in this film actually did work. I really liked the cinematography. It was just the fact that when you have so much of that going on at the same time, it just doesn't work, and it feels so unfocused that you have so many things going on that you just feel like you need to have this one thing. And even when it comes to Hope, I feel like she just takes a big step down in this film, mostly because she also feels like she is thrown in the background. I don't think she had more than 30 lines in this movie. I really enjoy the relationship between Hope and Scott. However, this film takes that away, and it just doesn't feel like it is Ant-Man and the Wasp. It just feels like Ant-Man, Quantumania. I really enjoy what they were going for in a lot of these aspects. However, it just feels like there is just so much going on that it just feels like it's going all over the place, that by the end of the film, I just became very uninterested in what was going on, mostly because I was really taken back by what they were going for. And let's talk about MODOK. He's in it. And I don't say this hyperbole, but he was the worst part of this movie. It was absolutely fucking terrible. And I'm not going, if you don't know MODOK in this movie, I'm not going to give details about who MODOK is and what he wants. Let's just say, by the end of the film, I kind of wish he wasn't never in the film. And there were a couple of moments in this film that you could have taken out with him involved, and it wouldn't have changed anything. He was probably the most annoying character in this film. However, one of the highlights of this character is a new character played by David Dastmalchian, who plays Kurt in the first two Ant-Man films. He voices Veb, and I think he was absolutely fantastic, and that is where I kind of wanted a little bit more of that firefighters. That is where I wanted a little bit more of those freedom fighters, because they did some very interesting things. It just didn't come out as hot as I wanted to. But overall, even though I am kind of perplexed on this movie, there are things that I enjoyed and other things that just felt very flat. I would still recommend that you check this film out on Disney+. I don't think this is a movie that you need to check out in theaters. There were a couple of things that really make the theater going experience fun, but overall, it was just one of those films where if you watch it a second time, I kind of feel like it's going to be a chore. But those are my thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Have you guys checked it out? Have you guys not been very impressed with the MCU so far? Go ahead and drop those thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on more. Click that bell notification so you get notified every single time that a video pops up. We'll catch you guys on the flip side.